Hello everyone, Kawazi here, and welcome to Magic the Gathering Arena. Today I want to go through my Naya Humans deck that I've been using to grind through Diamond into Mythic this month. Um, it's not a deck that I've seen that much around on the ladder. I've seen a few Naya Werewolves, a few Naya Zoo decks, but very few focused on humans. But that's the, the kind of deck that I tend to brew is one that's like, a playable at Mythic rank, but not necessarily tier one. But it has got me through to Mythic in about 40 games or so at Diamond this month. So it's worked pretty well so far, and I'm keen to keep trying it a bit more in Mythic. So I'll record some games after this at Mythic and see how we get on. So um, just to talk through some of the key aspects of this humans deck, I'll start with Sagada, Champion of Light. So Sagada has an Anthem effect for humans, flying trample 4/4 for 4 in white and green, and has a coven that allows you to draw, or basically look at the top 5 cards of your library and pull out more humans, um, providing you have creatures with 3 different power values. Sagada, whilst not necessarily the best card, is actually a really good top end in a creature deck at the moment. I mean, the meta at the moment to me seems very creature heavy, and having a 4/4 flyer for 4 at the top end allows you to sort of get in and close out those games against other creature decks, particularly when you've been duking it out with creatures of 2, 3 value. This creature is one that can just give you those extra cards and extra damage at the end of games to get over the top and win games. As well, on the human theme, we have Catilda Dawnheart Prime, only 2 of in this deck. Mostly due to it being a legendary creature and not wanting to draw too many, but also there's not huge need for the excess mana that Catilda can generate. So Catilda is a 1 green, 1 white, 1/1 with protection from werewolves that comes up more often than you'd expect at the moment. Quite a lot of people are running werewolves decks. And also allows you to tap any of your human creatures to add 1 mana and pay 6 and tap her to put a 1/1 creature on each creature you control. So Catilda basically allows you to generate lots of additional mana in the late game, which obviously this deck has not really huge uses for, apart from the ones that I'll come to in a minute. So can also then use that mana to put counters on each creature you control, which can be a method to get over the top of other creature decks towards the mid game, but largely, to be honest, it doesn't factor that much in the games I've played with it so far. But it is just a nice 1/1 that can accelerate us to our 4 drops, um, and can also allow us to make the most of a couple of the other 2 drop inclusions in the deck, which are firstly Intrepid Adversary, which is 3/1 lifelink for 1 and a white, but also allows you to pay 1 and a white when it enters the battlefield to basically add stackable Anthem effects onto your other creatures, i.e. boosting all your other creatures as long as you have basically even number of mana. So for 4 mana you can play this and it comes in as for 4/2 and gives all your other creatures +1/+1. Is the most common use, but can serve as a dump for like 8, 10 mana in the late game and boost all your other creatures up by a lot. It's also a very playable card on turn 2. A 3/1 lifelink is something that most opponents are going to want to trade with and get rid of as soon as possible, so it serves well as in both slots. Also, Guardian Evangel basically allows you to tap down the opponent's creatures. Again, it's a 3/1 for 2, so it's actually got the power there to make people have to deal with it. They can't just leave a 3 power clock on the board from turn 2. And yeah, it's basically a win con of this deck, which is if you draw this card when you've got 6 or 8 mana down, you can tap down most of your opponent's board and swing with team and close out games. So both of these, whilst being 2 drops, have ways of using the additional mana generated with Catilda, and I find work particularly well with her. Moving up to the top of the curve, we have Inquisitor Captain, which is pretty much a staple of the format at the moment. It features quite heavily in a lot of the meta creature decks. I think if you're not playing Inquisitor Captain or Townraiser Tyrant as a 4 drop in a creature deck at the moment, you're probably doing something wrong. It's a very strong 4 drop, and we're not really being hit here by the recent nerf to the wording that means it has to be cast, because we're always casting it, largely to pull out a Brutal Cathar for removal of our opponent's creatures, or to pull out a Reckless Stormseeker to apply additional pressure to the board. Now, these two are both staples in a lot of red-white Naya-y creature decks, especially with Inquisitor Captain. This sort of triangle of creatures is a very, very powerful combination. See it cropping up quite a lot. Moving on, we've got one copy of Adeline. I'd say she's pretty much a given in any white creature deck to have at least one copy of Adeline. It's a very powerful creature. The 4 toughness makes it tricky to remove, and spitting out the extra 1/1 humans can be nice with Catilda, and with Intrepid Adversary they could be bigger, and with Sagada. Moving down to the bottom of the curve, we have Hopeful Initiate. Hopeful Initiate is basically the best 1-drop creature you can find in these colours. I mean, it's a 1/2 for 1, but it has training, which means it will grow if you attack with something with higher power, which everything apart from Catilda in this deck is, and both Intrepid Adversary and Sagada Evangel, which can often come down on turn 2 following a Hopeful Initiate, can grow it twice, assuming that they don't get blocked. So you can have some fairly explosive starts just with these 3 cards, and yeah, it does actually the two mana and 1 white to remove 2 counters and destroy an artifact or enchantment does come up a strange amount in the games I've played so far, particularly with the Key to the Archive being common in control decks. Being able to remove that after you've trained a couple of times with Hopeful Initiate does actually come up. So yeah, it's not a perfect 1-drop by any means, but it does synergize pretty well with the deck, and it's necessary to have a 1-drop with Catilda because that's then a 1-drop mana dork, which is pretty valuable in the current meta to get up to our tier 4s quickly. So yeah. Moving on to some of the more unusual inclusions in the deck, we have Augur of Autumn. It's a slightly questionable inclusion, and I'm not sure if it will stay here, but being able to pull the lands off the top and ramp into the higher numbers of even mana for Intrepid Adversary and Sagada Evangel has seemed to be quite important in the deck for me. And also getting to 3 different power levels in order to use the Coven ability and cast creatures off the top has happened reasonably often due to the fact that we have 1 power in Catilda and Hopeful Initiate. We have 3 power in these creatures, 2 power with Brutal Cathar. Adeline is often high power, and then we can tweak which creatures we want to put the counters on from Halana and Alina in order to make sure we're hitting the Coven of both Augur and Autumn and Sagada. So it does actually happen that we can cast creature cards off the top quite a lot with Augur of Autumn, especially using the additional mana from Catilda. Can be a clutch sort of momentum card in this deck. So at the moment I'm keen to keep it included, but it's not necessarily as good as the other option, which is Grizzled Huntmaster. Now this is a card I've been turned on to fairly recently as really realizing the value of this card. So being able to exile a creature card from your hand and basically gate a creature card out of your sideboard into your hand when this enters the battlefield, as well as being a 4/3 for 3 mana, is actually a very solid card. And the reason being that it lets you ditch duplicates of legendary cards out of your hand, of which we have a few in this deck, legendary cards, but also I'm gaining very, very little value from dropping a Hopeful Initiate late game. Particular matchups, dropping a Thalia isn't that helpful, and similarly with all these cards, they all have like use cases where they're not that helpful, and having Grizzled Huntmaster being able to pull out answers to the various different decks, of which I've tried to cover a few. The one missing here is probably an artifact destroyer and a land, which I'll probably try and add into the sideboard and remove a couple of the others later on. But as I mentioned earlier, Sagada and Evangel, good endgame for this deck. Thalia for control decks. Skyclave to remove those pesky clerics. Hamlet Vanguard could probably be ditched from here, but it's just quite a fun inclusion more than anything to be able to drop like an 11/11 for 3 mana. Halana and Alina, if I haven't managed to draw one, can be a big sort of game shift if against other aggro-y creature decks. Sagada, just because it's an anthem effect for everything in the deck, and then the Avabrook Caretaker for the hexproofy growing nonsense against the more tempo-y decks. So I'll probably try and remove a couple of these, stick in a land creature if I'm missing my land drops, and also stick in Artifact Destroy. But for now, I'm messing about with what's actually included here. But being able to pull these in for a hopeful initiate out of your hand, or a spare Catilda or a spare Sagada, is actually very handy. And then having a 4/3 human that can grow with Sagada and Intrepid Adversary is also it's no small feat. So yeah, that's the deck. I've sort of got mostly green and white mana sources with some red splash within these two lands and Forsaken Crossroads, so we're never really missing that one red mana, but similarly we've got enough white sources to make sure I can always cast the white cards here. So haven't really found any mana problems presently playing this deck. As I said, I've played it about 40 games so far to get through to Mythic, so I'll play a few more games now and show you how the deck goes. Okay, Kratos. Only 3 drops, but 3 lands and on the play. I mean, there's a good chance of drawing a 2-drop in this deck, so we'll keep. On the play, we can get away with being 3-drop first if we have to, a lot of the time, unless they're a very low curve deck or a very high curve control deck. That's nice. Gives us a little bit more presence for turn 2. And then we can get stuck in with Stormseeker for 5 if, yeah, we can. So, that has to be a green for that. So we'll do this. The thing about letting Rahilda get 1 hit is they still need to be able to follow up with a werewolf attack. To be able to utilise whatever they get anyway, so we can always Cathar away whatever they're going to be able to attack with next turn. Possibly the best thing for them to top deck off of us though. Fateful Absence, very nice for them, very nice indeed. Okay, I think it has to be the partners here. Really put some pressure on them, going down to 11 already. Because they've got to do a Polana and Alina, and then they've got a 4/5. Yeah. So, I think we keep pressure on, rather than trying to remove their creatures at the moment. Yeah. Okay, next game, Papasaurus. Definitely not a very good opening hand here. 2 tap lands, 2 1-drops. I'd say that alone is enough for this to be a mulligan. Okay, 2 lands on the draw. I mean, yeah. The reason I'm ditching Cathar is because I don't know if I'm playing against a creature deck or not. Against a non-creature deck, that would be too much dead weight in the hand. I mean, they're often the best thing I can have, so it's hard. It's a hard one to ditch that. But we can actually play our creatures out roughly on curve now, so we will do so. Hopeful initiate turn 1, can't complain. Looks like we're playing against mono green, which fairly common matchup at the moment. Ranger class, lovely target for the Cathar. I will probably play this on white, just because we don't have any red creatures at the moment. Obviously no attack. Tenacious Pup, probably into a pack leader. Ooh, pack song pup. I will kill that before I get to 1/1 on it, so that they gain less life. Opponent down to 3 cards in hand already, which is nice. Okay, I think It's good to get the Cathar in here, get rid of that token whilst they're tapped out. Nothing worse than playing a Cathar into a Snakeskin Veil. It looks like we're playing against a very low curve green deck here. Nothing above a 2-drop so far, even though they have had the option to play a 3-drop. And they've missed their land drop. You will Inquisitor Captain. Not much to say past that. Okay, Baltazo finally got a different opponent. I had to have a little break in recording just now because I kept getting paired against the same person, which, whilst it's good for my rating, isn't good for isn't good viewing. So finally we've got a different opponent. We will keep this. Not ideal having 4 lands on the draw, but hello, good game. It always trips me up a little bit thinking about the lands that I need to play in these 3 colour decks that have double greens and double whites and stuff in them. Now, this is dangerous because Deadly Dispute sacks the ghast, minuses my adversary. Very unpleasant. Yeah. But it does stop them getting a treasure out of it, which is one of the additional treasure out of it, which is one of their goals, and we can easily recover. Okay. Tokens deck. Actually Stormseeker first. Whilst we can get in, we should get in. That's a good rule of thumb for this deck in general. Or force a jump, just as good as getting in. Be interested to see what's coming next. Yeah, Brushstroke. I wonder if this is a enchantments deck or just a draining deck. Probably it's the draining deck. That is an interesting one. That actually has replaced. I was going to play Captain, but this combination is just so good. If I can Captain to pull a Cathar, get rid of any Blood Artists, this is still going to be some nasty turns coming up for them. Kaya the Inexorable. Now, I've always been a bit of a fan of Kaya because of the instant exile of the target, but I've never found that it works that well in the deck for me, so let's see if they could do any better with it. I think we Captain in here. Although Sagada is tempting to get rid of Kaya, let's do that. We are keeping pressure up here, because although they got rid of the Halana and Lena, this Reckless Stormseeker is powerful. As long as they can keep the number of creatures down that they have on the board, that is the main goal against these black decks. Once they've got a Meat Hook, Blood Artist and Sanguine Brushstroke down, it's really, really hard to grind them out. That's good. It's good that they feel they have to Deadly Dispute in their own turn on a blood token already. That implies they're struggling to me. Okay. Okay. I wonder if they just top deck that. Interesting. Well, with any luck with the Captain, we'll get creatures of different strengths. We've got a 3, a 4, so we need a 2. Bear in mind that they get +1. Or Adeline, which will be a 4. Oh no, that'll be a 4. So basically, is it worth taking Adeline, getting the 1/1 and Adeline, or taking Catilda, getting an extra human with Sagada? Probably Adeline. Less susceptible to a meat hook with that 5 toughness. Oh, we wouldn't have had it anyway, because Inquisitor was a 4/4, not a 3/3. Just hadn't upgraded its toughness yet when I was looking at Sagada. Yeah, this is definitely a better board state to be in anyway. 15 power on the board versus their 13 health. Yep, well, that'll do. Destroy all creatures. Now I will ditch the Augur here just to pick up a Averbrook. Assuming I can hold on to one other creature on the board. Now, assuming they don't have another meat hook, that isn't the end of the world. Let's put the Augur down first. So if we hit a land drop, win. If we don't, we get a creature next turn. You can draw that creature now as well. Okay, so let's see if this can survive a turn of not being meat hooked. The answer is no. Well, at least we can put out 300 Evangels without being too worried now. We'll just keep putting them out. Get maximum value out of this card. Come on. And then you've got to get your third meat hook, which would obviously just be basically game over. But being able to chuck down 4 3/1s off of 1 card draw is not bad. That is not bad. And we're not blocking. If this is a meat hook that they've top decked, I'll be sick. You've got to be having a laugh. Honestly. 3 meat hooks and 21 cards. What's that, the 4th one? No, that's probably a Fateful Absence. Interesting that they're running Fateful Absence instead of Infernal Grasp, unless they are running Infernal Grasp. Stop touching my Cathar. Get off! Here we go again. Now we just need one more meat hook massacre, baby. One more. Wipe me out again. Four. Doesn't really matter what we're tapping, I'm just randomly clicking because we know exactly what cards they have. Okay. Land, at last. He'll probably hang back here. Yeah. Okay, what I'm going to do is attack, and then whichever one that he tries to target with the minus, I'm going to kill myself. No point Fateful absencing a Shambling Ghast. then I will draw. Eee. Oops. Kind of completely like brain malfunction there, thinking that I could hunt master the other card off Captain, where obviously you can't. Back up to 13 power on board now. Okay, back down to 9. Still, this is a good position, especially with another Inquisitor Captain. This time we're not messing it up. Alright. Meat hook. Good game. Good game. Okay, Callan. So on the draw, with a 2-3-3-4 curve, 3 lands, not too bad. We'll keep. Any way I can play Hopeful Initiate on turn 1 is to use my red source as white, so I'm not going to do that. I'd rather play it later, ditch it with a Grizzled Huntmaster, or just play it out. Okay, we're playing against dragons. Get some life gain on the go. Can be very, very helpful against dragons. Nice to see they don't have the that's grim, because nice to see they didn't have the whelp, but this is grim. I think what we'll do is use this and put it into the adversary. That way we either take out their 4/4 flyer with our 2-drop, or we gain 4 life, 8 life swing. If they've got another one for my other non-basic land, then I'm going to be in some trouble. Okay, that's actually not that bad, because we can race in damage, unless they have a blocker now. Because if I put this... Yep. I guess they could have Dragonfire. Yeah, they have shit. Okay, that's going to slay us, but at the end of the day, we're still gaining 4 life back here, which they aren't. Hey, maybe they are. That's probably a good game, because 14 health is too high for me to push down, and even if I can get rid, I need to get rid of 3 dragons now. Actually, I need to get rid of 2 because of the life gain. I will have to sack. Hold on, 2s. No, I'm not going to keep it for any chance of. Okay, so what we can do is we can Cathar the gold dragon. We can then put this in. Give that haste. That gains us back 7. At least they need to do something to win now. That'll do it. Yeah, the problem with that game is the Cathar really doesn't play well against Town Razor Tyrant, because if you exile it and they get it back, it's just 2 of your lands gone. Never mind. Okay, just a quick look at the stats of the deck we've been playing today on untapped.gg. This is a free deck tracking and statistics resource for Magic the Gathering Arena. It's really good for keeping an eye on how well you're doing compared to how well you think you're doing. Sometimes the deck can feel like you're doing really well, but you're just getting unlucky, and actually your win rate's terrible and you played loads of matches. Thankfully, that's not the case on this one. Overall, we've got a 65% win rate, which is not that bad, but looking at just the latest version, which I've now played 44 matches with, so not loads, but achieved a 77% win rate. Amazingly, an 83% on the draw, which for a low curve creature deck really is surprising, but I think really the addition of the two Fateful Absences has really helped the deck compete in the current creature heavy meta. And yeah, I'll be playing with this a bit more just to see where we end up after like 100 matches or so. Obviously, you've got to take the statistics with a pinch of salt when you've got a reasonably small sample size. But yeah, we're definitely onto a bit of a winner here with this deck. It can obviously compete at the mythic level. And yeah, I'm keen to make some more videos on similar decks, similar strategies. It's definitely the kind of way I'd like to play the game. You know, some slightly off meta, but still using some good cards. And yeah, definitely looking forward to the Kamigawa release and getting involved with some similar decks like that. So if you did like the video, please do give it a like and subscribe. Till next time, thanks guys.